Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my Europa League Round of 16 predictions. In case you missed it, I also uploaded my Champions League Round of 16 predictions. I'll leave a link to that video in the description. And we also covered the Europa League playoffs to the round prior. In that round in specific, I got 6 out of 8 correct. The two teams I slightly underestimated were Bodo Glimt and Alkmaar. 6 out of 8 is not ideal, but it's not terrible either. This round in particular, though, I'm really unsure how it's going to go. A lot of these matchups are very 50-50, extremely tough to call. You still got 2 Premier League teams in there that are considered the top 6 in the league, but both are having horrible seasons. So will their Premier League form translate to European football, or will they prevail and have some decent success in this competition? There's also many other underrated clubs that are still fighting for the Europa League trophy. So, as always, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. Also, just like the Champions League video, at the very end, I will be doing a full-on prediction for the rest of the bracket. It will go by quickly since I don't know each of the matches, but I'll do my best regardless. I'll be going in order of this bracket in particular, so starting off with Victoria Plzen versus Lazio. Lazio are arguably one of the favorites in this tournament. That's because they finished the initial league phase at first place. Their only loss in the league phase came against Braga on the final match day. The attack is very much improved compared to last season. Their forward Castellanos is overall the top goal scorer of the club. However, unfortunately, he is expected to miss both legs of this Europa League round of 16 phase. But they still got 37-year-old Pedro pulling through. He's got 7 direct goal contributions in 8 matches so far in the Europa League in particular. Lots of other firepower in the attack to rely on though, like the player who completely ruined my summer. The club overall slightly dipped in form towards the second half of February, failing to pick up a win against Napoli, Venezia, and Inter, but they traveled to the San Siro once again to face Milan and were victorious there. So despite the injury blows, I still think Lazio should be confident going into this fixture. Of course, though, we cannot rule out the Czech club. Victoria Plzen were in the playoffs earlier where they had to face the Hungarian club Fenerbahçe, lost the first leg 1-0 while traveling away, but came back tremendously in the second leg winning 3-0. It was very impressive to shut down the Hungarian club like that, as they have been scoring a lot of goals in the competition. Following that, they did take a heavy defeat to a tough opponent, to be fair, Slavia Praha, but have came back in their next 2 matches. Definitely watch out for Pavel Schulz. He's the top goal scorer and assister of the club right now, and has had a remarkable rise over the past 2 seasons or so. He can be a difference maker in a fixture like this, but I do think Victoria Plzen are overall the underdogs going in here. Lazio have definitely shown their form throughout the season. Yes, some dips here and there, but they already submitted themselves wonderfully in the Europa League this season. I know that in the Champions League, a lot of Italian clubs fell short, but I do think Lazio can pull through here. I'm going to say that in the first leg, it finishes 2-1 for them away. It'll be a very cagey match. And in the second leg, they will be able to defeat Victoria Plzen more convincingly, 2-0 scoreline. They win over both legs and advance to the quarterfinals. We move on now to Bodo Glimt versus Olympiacos. Thankfully, I did predict Olympiacos to finish in that top 8 league phase. Many people underestimated them and they still pushed through, proving themselves wonderfully in European football even after they won the Conference League trophy. They're hungry for more. They could go far in this Europa League campaign as well. They definitely should not underestimate Bodo Glimt like I did in my last prediction video. This side are joint second place in the most goals scored in the competition. Might be a silly stat to compare because Galatasaray have been knocked out and they're first place at the moment. At the same time though, it's going to be tough to score loads of goals against Olympiacos, who have kept 6 out of 8 clean sheets in the league phase. David Carmo has been an incredible addition to the back line. However, in the attack, the club are going through a major setback. They will be missing Europa League's top goal scorer of the competition, El Kaabi. The Moroccan striker, despite not even playing in the playoffs, has 7 goals in this Europa League tournament. He's accumulated 21 goals in all European tournaments since the start of last season. That's more than many of the best forwards in the game. His return date is unknown, but he is expected to miss at least a few matches for Olympiacos. So maybe he can return for that second leg, but the first is looking a bit doubtful. Especially with that first leg being played in Norway, Bodo can definitely capitalize on this. No matter how many players come in and out of the club over the years, since the Conference League was created, Bodo Glimt have produced some incredible storylines in European football themselves. The last playoff round where they placed Twente, it was incredible. After the first leg, they were down 2-1, but they came back tremendously, scoring 5 goals against them in Norway. 3 of them occurred in extra time. I think El Kaabi's presence is going to be very beneficial for Olympiacos if he can be fit for that second leg. But the first leg, I do see Bodo coming out on top and I actually think they can do it with a 2-0 scoreline. But I do see a comeback scenario for this fixture. I know it might be a bit bizarre, but I do think Olympiacos has what it takes if they are able to get their striker back in time to get a 4-1 victory in Greece. But yeah, I do have Olympiacos making it to the quarterfinals and pushing for another great European campaign. Oh, this next one's tough. We got Ajax versus Frankfurt. Frankfurt earlier were looking like a very deadly side. With Omar Mamouche up top, he's accumulated 25 direct goal contributions in 17 matches in the Bundesliga alone. But he transferred to Manchester City over the January transfer window. So will their firepower really be that deadly? Well, they haven't been getting the most convincing results lately. Their last 2 matches were definitely against difficult opponents, first and second in the Bundesliga, but still, they conceded 4 apiece to both. 4-0 against Bayern Munich, 4-1 against Leverkusen. Ekitike is still a quality striker, but there's no denying that they aren't looking as deadly up top, and their defense clearly has some issues. Ajax seem to be returning to glory once again, and they are first in the Eredivisie, regaining their stature domestically, of course. However, in the Europa League, they were in that playoff round, coming up against quite a tough opponent, to be fair, Union Saint-Gilloise, where they only just squeezed through 2-3 on aggregate, losing the second leg match as well. And their striker Wout Weghorst is still for sure going to be injured. I think overall this one's a very tough one to call. It really could go either way, because it seems a bit cruel to judge Frankfurt based off of their last 2 performances. I know they were dreadful, but still, those were against, like I said, the 2 best Bundesliga clubs. While Ajax, yes, they should be doing well in the Eredivisie. They still definitely have shown their imperfections, though. In the Europa League in particular, we even saw them lose to RFS, the Latvian club. They got knocked out to Alkmaar in the domestic cup. So yes, despite Frankfurt's woes, they definitely can come back stronger here. They still overall have a solid position in the Bundesliga 3rd place, just by a massive difference of 1st and 2nd. Very tough one to pick a winner here, but I am going to go for Frankfurt at the end. Comeback scenario. Ajax win the first leg 1-0. But Frankfurt win the second leg 3-1. But now we move on to arguably an even tougher one to call. Maybe for some it will be easy, but you just never know with Premier League clubs. Tottenham versus Alkmaar. And Alkmaar have been very impressive lately. Like I mentioned, they did knock out Galatasaray in the playoff rounds quite convincingly as well, scoring 4 goals against them in the second leg. Troy Parrott has been an incredible addition, and the funny thing is, he transferred from Tottenham. He's not shying away from any big clubs. He's gotten 4 goals so far in the Europa League. Domestically, they've recently squeezed through in the semi-cup final on penalties, but then just lost to Heerenveen. So they've been a bit back and forth themselves, but maybe they're putting more eggs in their basket for European tournaments. Tottenham were able to secure top 8 in the Europa League, but they are currently 13th place in the Premier League. 33 points, tied with Manchester United, who we'll definitely get into later, obviously, West Ham, and 1 point in front of 16th place Everton. Tottenham picked up 4 straight Premier League defeats in a row until the beginning of February, where they were able to beat Brentford away. Then since then, they've fallen off again. 4-0 to Liverpool in the Carabao Cup, and then 3 days later getting knocked out of another domestic cup, losing 2-1 to Aston Villa in the FA Cup. They had a battle of the banter club with Manchester United, where they did squeeze through a 1-0 victory, scored 4 against Ipswich straight after, looked convincing, but then lost to Manchester City. It's too tough to bank on either of these teams. Now, let's not forget that Tottenham did get a win against Alkmaar in the Europa League earlier, but it was just 1-0 with the Richarlison penalty. With Ange's Army already getting knocked out of 2 tournaments, can it be his 3rd this soon as well? Solanke and Richarlison are looking to miss that first leg. Also, Christian Romero and Mickey van de Ven in the defense both have return dates expected for March 9th. After the first leg, and they'll also be missing the Romanian Waldargushin for the rest of the season. With all those injuries for the first leg, and also that first leg being played in the Netherlands, it's going to be a tough time for Tottenham. I think Alkmaar can actually defeat them 2-1 in the first leg. It is all whether or not Tottenham can come back in that second leg. But you know what? I think they can. With a 1-0 victory, followed up with penalties, and they do the job there. Tottenham advance to the quarterfinals. Now we move on to the other side of the bracket, which I think it's only getting harder and harder from here. The first match is no joke. Roma versus Athletic Club Bilbao. Athletic Club Bilbao, like I mentioned, did tie with Lazio, who finished first place in the league standings. And in La Liga are doing very well as well, 4th place, only behind that top 3 race. They did just lose to an in-form Atletico over the weekend 1-0, but prior to that, they got a 7-1 victory. Lots of in-form players in the club without a doubt. Nico Williams hasn't been as extraordinary as many thought he would be, but he's still been proving his quality. Big shout out to Ernesto Valverde for solidifying this club enough for me to be convinced that they genuinely are one of the favorites to win the Europa League. They obviously have a very difficult obstacle ahead. Roma are no joke, but at the same time, Roma have been highly underwhelming this season overall. Many had the highest expectations for them going into the season, but with them sacking numerous managers to admitting some of those were regretful decisions, they are now trailing all the way at 8th place in the Serie A. In the Europa League as well, they seem like a safe team to bank on to finish in the top 8. Nope. They finished 15th. The road hasn't been easy though. Even in that playoff round, they had to face Porto. Porto are an incredible side, but also have been extremely underwhelming this season, and they just narrowly scraped over them. 4th round aggregate and continue their winning streak after that in Italy. I'd say overall, without a doubt, in recent times, they are improving and building more of a stature to be a solid competitor against Athletic Club Bilbao, but still without a doubt, they're not the most promising team. Everyone loves Claudio Ranieri though, and he's got some great options to his disposal to defeat this informed Spanish club. Even though Roma has somewhat returned to winning ways recently, they still are just narrowly cutting it short way too many times. Athletic Club Bilbao are playing some really convincing football. With this final being played in their city as well, I don't know. For me, they're at least one of the top 4 favorites in the competition. Maybe not number 1, but they should at least push for maybe the quarterfinals or semifinals. I cannot see Athletic Club Bilbao being knocked out this soon. I'm going to favor them to advance over Roma. In the first leg, I'm going for a 1-1 draw, and in the second, Athletic Club Bilbao narrowly push for a 2-1 victory to advance to the quarterfinals over the Italian club. Fenerbahçe versus Rangers. Now, on paper, it does seem to be that Fenerbahçe do have a stronger squad. They will still be missing Diego Carlos, but they still have enough center back reinforcements. And with Jose Mourinho at the helm, you already know that he is expected to have a deep run in this competition in particular. This is on the top of my head, so I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but I believe he's the only manager to win the Champions League, Europa League, and Conference League. Why could he not go all the way with Fenerbahçe? Now, although Jose Mourinho has an incredible resume, it does seem like he is slowing down a tad bit and having some blunders. At the moment, they're obviously neck and neck with Galatasaray for the Turkish Super League. And although he has enough incredible reinforcements to prove that they are a quality club in this European tournament, Rangers have a great history in the Europa League as well. In 2022, they made it all the way to the final, defeating some tough teams along the way. The Champions League after, they'll want to forget about that. They were one of the worst clubs, and they'll want to redeem themselves here, as in the last 2 Europa League campaigns, they got knocked out in the round of 16, this exact stage. Will history repeat itself for the 3rd time in a row, or can they prevail against a very strong Turkish team? They finished in the top 8, only losing 2 matches, 1 to Manchester United and 1 to Lyon. But they've had some incredible victories as well, defeating FCSB 4-0 and holding some quote-unquote tough teams to a draw like Tottenham and Olympiacos. Fenerbahçe in the Europa League hung on to the last possible spot to make it to the playoffs, 24th place, even sharing points with 25th and 26th. In the playoff round, they were able to defeat Anderlecht 5-2 on aggregate, but in the league phase only picked up 2 2-1 victories against Union St. Galois and Slavia Praha. They finished with many draws, including clubs that they should have been beating on paper, and got outplayed against the likes of Alkmaar and Athletic Club Bilbao. So Fenerbahçe in European football are not necessarily to be trusted, and I do see this match going in absolute chaos. Rangers have fallen off a bit domestically. Obviously, they're still in second, but for their standards, they are way far behind Celtic in terms of the point difference. I do think the magic of Jose Mourinho will at least kick in this fixture in particular. Maybe they will fall short later on, depending on their opponents. They do have a tough road ahead of them. Potentially, if I'm correct, having to face Athletic Club Bilbao once again is not going to be easy. But for now, I think they're safe to do the job. I think in the first leg, Fenerbahçe will have a somewhat strong victory, 3-1 going their way. And in the second, when they have to travel to Scotland, it's not going to be going so well for them. But they still will just push through, as Rangers will get a 2-1 victory. Fenerbahçe going through with the 3-4 aggregate scoreline. Now we move on to the Romanian club, FCSB versus Lyon. Lyon's season has definitely been quite strange. They are at risk of being relegated just due to financial irregularities. In Ligue 1, they're currently at 6th place with 7 losses. And they also finished 6th place in the Europa League, which was obviously a better achievement, as top 8 does secure an automatic spot to the round of 16. They avoided that playoff spot, while FCSB just fell short. 11th place, but only 1 point behind Lyon. Falling short to Rangers with the hefty scoreline at the beginning definitely set them back. But they beat PAOK in the league phase and were able to defeat them once again in the playoffs over both legs. They had some injury concerns, but that did not stop them from pushing through. Unfortunately, the injury concerns are still continuing. Their captain Olaru will miss both legs of this match. and their top goal scorer, Billy Gea, is at least expected to miss the first leg. A lot of their defenders are there though, which could be the difference. FCSB have been able to lock down teams defensively, not always as I've just shown, but they definitely can push through against Lyon. As Lyon, despite finishing in the top 8, weren't necessarily perfect themselves, especially towards the last stretch of the Europa League. Drawing with Ludogorets, who failed to get a single win in the tournament, failing to do anything against Fenerbahçe, drawing with Hoffenheim, who had a poor season, losing to Besiktas, and their recent scores when coming up against tough opposition does not go in their favor. Close fights, but still falling short to likes of Marseille earlier in February and PSG, both with a 3-2 scoreline. But then in both those matches in between, they were able to score 4 goals against their oppositions. This side are without a doubt the favorites on paper when you look at their options. Lacazette, Cherki, their top assister. But despite all that, FCSB can definitely still prove that on paper, sides don't worry them. The only main concern I have for this club is their injury issues. I mean, these are new ones as well in the attack and midfield. Very much not ideal. I still think that defensively they can cause some issues for Lyon though. I'm actually going to say that in the first leg it finishes in a 0-0 draw. But then in the second leg, that's where Lyon find their shooting boots. They get a 2-1 victory over FCSB to advance to the quarterfinals. To my Romanian viewers, I hope your club proves me wrong. It's been a fantastic road so far. It's been incredible to see them prove me wrong many times. I had a feeling that they'd be able to beat PAOK once again in this last round, but I think this one might be a bit too difficult for them. Regardless, they've shown that nothing's impossible, and we shall see what happens. But now we move on to our final match we're looking at in the round of 16. I'll still go over a quick prediction for the rest of the bracket later. We've got Real Sociedad versus Manchester United. Manchester United are having their worst ever season so far. It just keeps getting lower and lower for this club. Ruben Amorim has not been an ideal replacement. There's obviously a lot more stuff going on behind the scenes because he's a fantastic manager. This club as a whole for a number of years now has just been run very poorly. I'm not going to get into too much detail in this video. If you want to see what I have to say about that, make sure you check out my video going over Antony. But yeah, players like him flop at the club, and as soon as they leave, they start excelling once again. So is Amorim the problem? He was doing fantastic stuff for Sporting literally right before he signed for Manchester United. Obviously, his tactics don't really align with a lot of the players that he has to his disposal right now, but still, they have what should be some high-profile signings that are just not delivering. That's in terms of domestic football, though. I mean, they also just got knocked out of the FA Cup. They're 14th place in the Premier League. But in the Europa League, they went undefeated, finishing 3rd place. Some underwhelming draws and some thrillers as well going their way. Not the most convincing displays, but still, Manchester United have been doing the job in European football. Now they will definitely have a big task on their hands, as Real Sociedad are actually a very solid team. Definitely with some inconsistencies themselves this season, but regardless, a challenge when you look at their team on paper. They're 9th right now in La Liga with more losses than wins, and in the Europa League they finished 13th. Without a doubt, in some matches they got absolutely shut down. Getting an early red card against Real Betis, losing 3-0 there where we saw an Antony masterclass. Losing in the Copa del Rey first leg semi-final against Real Madrid 1-0. To be fair, they actually played really well there and got unlucky, hitting the post many times. Then straight after that, don't get me wrong, a tough opposition, but Barcelona 4-0. Another early red card cost them the game, but Barcelona absolutely outclassed them. Even with the red card, it's still no excuse. Not a single shot was registered from Real Sociedad the whole match. Now that being said, in the Europa League playoffs, they did prevail against Midtjylland, scoring 5 goals against them in the second half as well. Luka Sucic getting a brace in that match, a great performance. He's been randomly delivering for the club. To me, this was an absolute toss-up because both these sides heavily fall under pressure. Neither club this season is to be trusted. Rightfully so, Manchester United deserve more heat, but could Manchester United's solid European football display be shown here against definitely a very solid club? Structurally, Manchester United are a mess. If they do push through here, it's not going to be a convincing performance. There's just no solid evidence that it's safe to bank on Manchester United right now, especially with Diallo gone for the rest of the season. But hey, at least Højlund is getting goals in the Europa League. He's got 5 to his name so far. It's crazy that he has more goals in the Europa League than the Premier League. Are Manchester United having a terrible season? Absolutely. But I think that it won't come all crashing out on them this soon. They only just got knocked out of the FA Cup. So you know what? I'm going to give them some benefit of the doubt and say they're able to squeeze through in this round. 1-1 draw against Real Sociedad in the first leg, And the second, once it's played at Old Trafford, luck will go their way somehow. Bruno will turn up. It finishes 3-2. Anyway, like I said, I will be giving you all my final bracket prediction as well. Starting out with that first side, Lazio versus Olympiacos. Boy, oh boy, there's so many factors that will go into this. Both strikers on each of these teams are injured right now. If they're able to stay fit, though, this could be one hell of a match played over 2 legs. I genuinely don't know what to pick. If you're going to play it safe, I think the right answer is Lazio, but I don't want to rule out Olympiacos. Tottenham versus Frankfurt. Like I said, the Premier League clubs are not to be trusted in this competition, but I do think with all things considered, Tottenham could build some more momentum and push through to the semifinals at least. Athletic Club versus Fenerbahçe, a rematch from the league phase. Best of luck to Fenerbahçe, but I just think Athletic Club Bilbao have a lot more confidence and momentum going for them right now. For me, they make it to the semifinals. And then for Lyon versus Manchester United, this is not getting any easier, but I am going to favor Manchester United. Lazio versus Tottenham now. For me, Lazio just have been a much more convincing side. They're going to make it to the final. And then Athletic Club versus Manchester United. If Manchester United somehow make it this far in the competition, surely it will end here. Athletic Club will play their final match on their own home ground. And then finally, Lazio versus Athletic Club Bilbao. For me, Athletic Club will take the trophy. What an exciting tournament this will be. I think it's much tougher to call than the Champions League. Whole another playing field. We shall see what happens. Thank you all for making it to the end of this video. Like I said, let me know your predictions in the comments below. Don't forget to leave a like if you haven't already, and subscribe if you're new. I will see you all very, very soon. Take care. La Noche.